Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Song Radio Show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and tonight I'm going to get into a topic, and it's about the American people. Now, I served in the military for 17 years. It might not mean anything to individuals who haven't done anything for this country, but the topic tonight, I'm going to talk about Americans don't want change. Americans don't want change. They're comfortable with the status quo. And it's funny to say this because before President Trump became president, he was a regular guy just like me. He just had billions. He had a lot of friends. A number of his friends were black. He was on shows like Oprah. He was on The View. He hung out with Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, some of the other rappers, and they all loved him. Till he decided to run for president. He had ideas that many of us didn't agree with at that time. And why did we agree with them? Because prior to President Trump getting into office, America was about globalism. This is why you have the big migrant population. I mean, if you look at it, migrants, they're coming from everywhere. They're coming from their countries because they know how the regimes are in their countries, and they're coming here. But here's the problem: they're bringing their culture with them. Let me give you an example. I live here in Indiana. And here in America, we have cultures amongst states. California has a different lifestyle than they do than it is here in Indiana. The problem is you have individuals that migrate to places to get out of bad situations, but they bring that bad situation with them. And it causes everything to be out of control. Now, if you look at what's going on now with individuals today do not understand what real pain is. I know the gas prices, they're soaring up. And a big reason is you have a lot of the environmentalists. This is what nobody's talking about. Well, do you know they haven't built an oil refinery here since 1976? That's 50 years. So a lot of the refineries here are to capacity. A number of the environmentalists were on the left, and a lot of people on the left are really for Marxism. However, they're also capitalists at the same time. And see, this is why people don't want that change. Individuals who are your elites, like your politicians, people like your Bill Gates, your Jeff Bezos, they like the environment the way it is. Why? Because they benefit. See, they don't have to pay for pain. They can inflict the pain because they have the resources to inflict the pain. See, your everyday average person like myself has to get up. Even if I own a business, I still have more rules that apply to me than somebody who is of higher stature or higher stature. But a lot of Americans today, particularly these young ones, they talk about racism when many of them don't even know what racism is. They hear everything repeated day in and day out. Let me give you an example. ICE. Well, Trump decided to put ICE at the airports because the Democrats haven't paid TSA. They withheld funding for Homeland Security. Now, if you listen to the mainstream media, you would think ICE is the issue. ICE is not the issue, they're the issue. But you have a number of people who are pretty dumbfounded out here, low information, who are constantly hearing how bad ICE is and they believe it. See, the problem with Americans is they're too gullible, they're very emotional, and they're complacent. They can tell you they want all of the change. They don't want a lot of change. They want some to basically none because they're comfortable. They're comfortable because they don't have to do anything. Like women, okay, you have a number of women today, particularly young women who've been brainwashed by feminism. Of course, you have some older women as well. Well, when you put it all into perspective, they're trying to be men. They don't even believe in being women because they look at themselves as individuals who are low lifes. As much as some of them spew that they hate men with this misandry, they want to be like men. They have penis envy. And if you look at the men have become even more and more feminized, particularly a lot of your liberal men. And when you have the social change, see, individuals want social change in the form of equality, but they really don't want true equality. Because true equality, we don't live in an egalitarian system, but true equality means responsibility. You see, a number of women, they want to become the modern women when they're receiving all the benefits, but they want the men to maintain traditionalism. And see, when you look at America, individuals, they like the status quo. The feminists like things the way they are. Now, what they're trying to do is get more, but you have individuals out there that don't like the accountability. And going back to Trump, Trump is an activist president. He's not a politician. And a number of individuals don't like President Trump because he's brash. He's a man. And I hate to say this, President Trump won the 2024 election. And it wasn't all about the policies because he was a man. And a number of the men saw what would have happened. They put a woman in power. Women can become very tyrannical. Number one, they're going to view their hatred of men they dealt with to the rest of the men in the country. That's why we don't want them in power. And President Trump, he got rid of a number of DEI programs. Now, when it comes to DEI, I'm going to say this. We hear that word, but mainly white women have benefited from DEI. And one thing I can tell you about America, it's a lot of delusion in this country. Let me go back to ICE for a second. You know, when ICE went to some of these airports and unmasked themselves, a number of the ICE agents were black. And you know, black people didn't like ICE. So black people shouldn't be involved in any type of law enforcement. See, this is that plantation thinking. And this is what you got with a number of the minorities and women here in this country. You have individuals who are really living a lie. They watch too much TV, whether it's entertainment, The View, too much CNN, and even Fox News. But we don't have thinkers. This is why change is very painful to a number of individuals. Now, you look at the gas prices. Now, the Democrats are going to say, well, look at the high gas prices. Well, we had high gas prices for 4 years. This isn't new. Now, do I agree with everything going on in the Gulf? No. If we had built more refineries here, we had more reserves up in Anwar, the Keystone Pipeline, fracking, we could have had more energy here. But you Democrats out there didn't want that. And you get on TV, you elites who sit on CNN and the mainstream media, and you become the public opinion court to brainwash a number of individuals who aren't knowledgeable of anything. And with the education system, that's depleted. It's become more of an indoctrination system. Individuals don't think anymore. Individuals will never change. Individuals want this woke culture. This is the problem. The woke culture that we had during the Biden administration years. But the woke culture and your divide started when Obama was president. You look at the Democrats, everything is about race, gender. They don't have any ideas. But Americans think they're really going through something today. Certainly things are high, but Americans did not go through the depression that the silent generation or the World War I generation went through. That was hell. Now, we've had some painful periods. When I was younger in the 70s, there were odd even days, gas shortages. I remember those gas shortages. Long lines. We don't have that now. But you still have individuals out here who are constantly complaining, but they really don't want that change. A number of people have opinions just to hear themselves talk. I hear it on YouTube all the time. People who have opinions, I have opinions, but I do research. I see what's going on out here. Now, do I agree with everything the president is doing? He's only been in a year and some change, not even 2 full years yet. And they're already hating what he does. When I see Hakeem Jeffries get up there and just lie. And now I'm hoping that the Supreme Court, because I look at when I go on these different browsers like Edge and Google, Yahoo, you have a lot of the left-wing media on those sites are saying, well, Trump might get defeated by the Supreme Court for mail-in ballots. Well, how do they know? This is why you have to be careful of what you read. He might not. But you know, when you have low IQ people, and this is the problem, the more low IQ people you have in this country, the worse it's going to get. Because low IQ people are very lazy, they're weak minded people, they're emotional, they have no clue of what's going on except they're parasitic. They want something for nothing. That's what America has become today. You have individuals that don't want to serve in the military, but yet they have opinions about what the military should be doing. You have these politicians who've been in Congress for a long time, and it all starts with the leadership. When Congress is getting older and they're putting out the same ideas today that they had 50 years ago, now I wonder why there's no change. Because a number of Congress people, like Maxine Waters, she doesn't want to give up her seat. She's 87 years old, older than my dad. And she still thinks she has a voice. But her ideas are old, tired. You look at people like Al Green. These guys are limping. Nancy Pelosi. Their ideas don't work, and they've never worked, but they still think they're going to work. They have not adapted. And see, when you have individuals who don't adapt, what they do, they keep younger generations from adapting. See, one thing that you have to do here in America, and we're not a collectivist society, we're an individual society. So you look at the gas prices, you look at the cost of housing. What are you going to do as a person? See, we have the tendency to blame somebody for all of our mistakes. This country has gotten very, very immature. Children don't respect their parents. Nobody respects authority. But yet, authority, you have other people coming into your lives trying to bully you. They expect you to understand them. And what I mean by that is, okay, when it comes to family, you have some family members that aren't doing well for themselves. So they call on you to help them. Okay, you help them. But when it comes time for you to go back to that same person for help, there's an excuse. And when I'm putting all this together, and I want you all to listen to this, a lot of people here in America are fake. That's what they are. They really don't want change at all because they're scared of change. Change, you have to sacrifice. Change, you have to go through some pain. You have individuals that are comfortable going out, buying a lot of bullshit with their money. But when it comes time to cut back, they're not going to cut back because they can't consume what they've been consuming. But that's the problem. You have to change in order to survive. And with this president, he has, it's more of an imperialist thought, America first. You should think about your own home before you think of others. Now, the president is thinking too much of domestics, but the problem is he's got both houses of Congress. But Congress, you got rhino Republicans and liberal Democrats. They're all on the same boat. They're all tied to Washington. I call them the Republicrats and the Democrats. They're really all the same party. because they're all established in Washington. And then you have non-elected bureaucrats trying to get in and put in their 2 cents worth. But the answer is in Washington, no matter what the president does, there's always going to be the swamp. Washington is a haven for corruption because that's where a lot of the money goes. And you even have it in some of your state capitals. I mean, you look at California and Minnesota with all the fraud. When I lived in Maryland, the city of Baltimore, and this is when Bob Ehrlich was governor back in '04, the city of Baltimore had $58 million missing. And I remember, I believe Bill O'Reilly mentioned it on Fox News when the U.S. Department of Education had $458 million missing. Now, where did all that money go? See, the problem is you have a number of individuals in Washington who are comfortable with the crony capitalism. They're comfortable with the scandals. They do insider trading all the time, which is illegal. Martha Stewart got caught up with it and went to prison because she lied. But see, when you follow politicians, you're like sheep, and a lot of Americans are sheep. A number of Americans have gone into the slaughterhouse. And what's really exposed the number of Americans is this social media, particularly TikTok. I have individuals that try to have conversation and they have no idea what they're talking about. And they can talk as intelligently and still not say anything. Because a number of individuals have a lot of opinions, but they don't back anything up. They're regurgitating. And there are individuals who are regurgitating information from the right too, but I see more of it from the left. Because what the left wants, they want everything to be woke. They don't want traditionalism. They believe that if you are traditional, you're going back to the frontier ages. You're living in the country. They believe that you should live right on top of each other with cafes and mixed unit apartments or condos in the city. Bottom line is, city living, in my humble opinion, is not good living because you're on top of people. It's you got the more people. Look at China. Look at all the diseases, all the colds and sicknesses they get. Bottom line is, the left is just like a religion. And what is religion used for? Certainly, I believe in God, but what religion is used for, it's to control the people. And generally, who are you trying to control? You're trying to control the people who don't have anything going for themselves by instilling the word hope. This is what Obama did. Obama believed that he could throw the word hope. But you know what? Hope doesn't mean anything. It either is or it isn't. I hope you do well. Well, the bottom line is you can hope something, but I have to be prepared. And you can come in prepared to do something well and still have a bad day. That's the same thing with sports. The one and done eliminations, like the NFL playoffs and the NCAA March Madness tournament. You can be the best team like Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio in the MAC conference was undefeated. So they lost the MAC tournament, and then they ended up being where they had the play-in game, but they were undefeated. Now, there are some changes, but a number of individuals don't understand the pain for the changes. Now, I don't know how long these gas prices are going to be the way they are, but I believe this president, his cabinet, they'll find a way to get these prices down. He wants to keep his legacy. The Republicans want to win the midterms. You see, if the Democrats were really winning, they wouldn't be spewing the same hate. But see, the Democrats' new minority in this country, it's the migrants. Now, it's funny with all the migrants coming over. Now, this is where some change is taking place. The migrants are just bringing their country over here. And then what's going to happen is a number of them are going to get into power over here. And, you women out there, you better be careful with what you ask for. You talk about all this feminist nonsense. Well, some of these guys who are coming from the Islamic theocracy and they're getting in power, well, they believe in Sharia law. You could end up wearing a burqa. See, what is happening here is, oh yeah, we got some change. And when I mean change, American people really don't want change in what's going on over here unless it's something that's going to have them in a parasitic mode. In other words, more and more government. So when they change Americans want, they don't want to work. But a number of them listen to the wrong news every day. They don't do research for themselves. These are individuals voting. You ask them, what are the three branches of government? They don't know what the three branches of government are. But yet they always have something to say right here on TikTok and YouTube. Social media has brought a lot of people down. Now, the millennials, now, I'm a Gen Xer. We didn't have all this information in the 80s and 90s. We had Donahue, Sally Jesse Raphael, Ricky Lake, Yolanda Watts, Queen Latifah, Montel Williams, Oprah, Tempest Bledsoe, Jenny Jones. And all that information right there, for the most part, was anti-male. You see, this one word you don't hear too much is misandry, the contempt and hatred for men. But when a number of men have questions about a woman, you're a misogynist. And that's the problem. We have individuals who are over-offended, they're very sensitive, and they want to shut down the conversation when they don't have an argument. The bottom line is this. With a number of you women out here, you need to stop trying to be men. See, that feminism has gone to your head because you're going to mess with the wrong types of guys, and they're going to show you what men can do. They're going to put you in a box that you're never going to recover from. And on top of that box, it's going to be daisies with a tombstone. You all keep it up, thinking that you can come at men like you are men. You hate men, but you want to be men at the same time because you envy the power. Well, for the most part, let me tell you ladies something out here. Men, we don't want to take orders from other men. You think we want to take orders from you? No, because you haven't fought for anything. You've bitched and whined to get to where you gotten, and you still think you're supreme. Everything is already built for you, and you're going around, well, we don't need men, blah, 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 blah. Well, men are the ones giving you jobs. Men are the ones giving you loans. Men still run everything in this country. I watch shows, oh, I want to be independent. Many of you aren't independent because many of you couldn't survive without the infrastructure, especially if you're from the cities. And see, that's another problem as well. We have too many people who don't know what the hell is going on, who are constantly running their mouths. They don't study, and they're running their mouths with this feel-good bull trying to be tough. Individuals, and you got weak men who allow it to go on. And that's what the Democratic Party is like. That's why I don't support the Democratic Party. I mean, if you're a man and you're voting Democrat, that's all on you. But they don't have anything for you. It's mainly feminists over there, your alphabet community. That's the party of complainers. I don't even want to say Marxism because you know what? A lot of your Marxists up here, yeah, they talk that Marxism and that communism shit here. But these individuals on the left want to take all of our money. They don't want to give up their money. They still believe in capitalism when it comes to them. Look at Bernie Sanders. And that might sound like I'm going all over the place, but this is stuff that you need to listen to because when you don't have a clue what's going on, you're going to be taken. And I'll give you two examples on a religious front. Look at David Koresh and look at Jim Jones. See, when you're not knowledgeable of what's going on, you're duped. You're scammed. You're always a victim. And see, that's what the Democrats want everybody to be. And if you're a black man in this country and you're still voting Democrat, I know a lot of you old niggas are still voting Democrat. And guess what? You're too comfortable because you got all of your stuff. You didn't pass it down. But it's funny how black people, before they were getting into the 1960s, they were Republicans. Now, unfortunately, they had jealous whites that tore their towns up. The bottom line with America is it's constantly changing. You have to adapt. Sometimes you're going to have to adapt when things go really fast. Sometimes you're going to have to adapt when they go slow. This is why I don't give a lot of statistics out because statistics are constantly changing from month to month, from year to year. This is why I look at trends. You look at styles. History always repeats itself when it comes to styles out here. But you know, you still have a number of people who want to be comfortable. Some people don't want to change with the times. Now, there are some things you change with, and there are some things you don't. Now, just because you live in the country doesn't mean that you're some backwoods individual that doesn't know what's going on. This means you live a little differently. And you take a city person and put them out in the country, they couldn't adapt. Why? Because they don't have the conveniences. Now, me, I prefer the country living. Less traffic, less people. It's almost like living a minimalist lifestyle. But you have people who still live in the country, still live in Appalachia. Look at the government. The government wants to tax us more so they can spend more of our money. It's not their money, it's our money. But you have individuals here who don't understand that. You look at every newscast. ICE is the terrorist. ICE killed people. Well, you don't hear that the woman tried to run over an individual in her car and she was told to move. I mean, he didn't say that. Then the other guy brought a gun. And you know, used to be back in the days when you're going in a wild, wild west, you stick your gun out, you better be prepared to shoot it. Well, guy stuck his gun out. And it's funny because black people in Minnesota, they were marching in 2020, and it's got some hypocrisy here. We had to wear masks in 2020. It was COVID. But Memorial Day 2020, when the George Floyd incident happened, you had all these young people out there marching, and it was during COVID. No mask on. That's what got the president in trouble the first time because of COVID. Then he didn't have the right people around. He's a little smarter than that. Bottom line is, you have so many people like Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats who have nothing. I mean, you don't hear him mention the word affordability, but they're always going to come up. They're going to come up with something about these gas prices. Well, the bottom line is, okay, the cost of things. Sometimes you got to cut back. Cost of beef is very high. I know I went into Walmart today, and I generally buy 85.15 beef, Angus beef, 93.7. And I usually buy the 3-pounder. Well, the 3-pounder was $32. That was for the 3-pounder. So now what did I do to get my 93.7? I went and bought 3 1-pounders and I saved $11. But it was still the same meat. This is what you have to do. You have to adapt when things are hot. When it comes to steak, you don't have to eat out every day. But you have a number of individuals who can't cook. And particularly a number of these black women out here who can't cook because they believe that I'm not going to do anything for a man. That's what's going to get them all in trouble. That's why a number of black women, I didn't say all of them, I'm generally speaking, a number of black women are not relationship material. You know, they end up being engaged so many times, those are just situationships. Somebody's there smashing and dashing. Yeah, they'll have babies all day, but still end up dysfunctional because they don't want a cohesive community. Now, I'm getting on the women because it's just not black women. See a number of white women. And these are the younger, maybe some of the later millennial women and the Gen Z women. It's because they've been indoctrinated by college, indoctrinated by social media so much, they don't know their own head from their ass. So, but when it comes to overall change out here, you have a number of people who really don't want, they want the status quo because the status quo is gravy to a number of them. They don't want to have to do work. And shout out to the videos I've been seeing with, there has been some shorts that Anton does where you do have some individuals who are making sense. They talk about liberal men. We got a number of liberals, period, who act as if they're educated, or they'll tell you they're educated based on the degree they got. You know, it's like the old adage when a number of black women, they're the most educated. Well, the way I break that down is there's education and there's attainment. Yes, you had a lot of them going to school. And the reason why a number of black women went to college, I will tell you this, it's because back in 1996, when Bill Clinton, that was the president then, passed the Welfare to Work Act, well, a number of these sisters weren't working, so they decided to go to school just to have something to do. And a number of them were spending the financial aid on everything but the tuition, but they were going to school thinking that they were educated. They were the most enrolled. I base education off of this. It's not how many of you are going to school, it's how many of you are graduating. And then it's how many of you are actually getting employment in the field. Now, this is just my opinion, because you don't have to work in your field with a degree. But I believe that if you're like, I'm a civil engineer, I believe that going to school to be a civil engineer, I'm getting the civil engineer degree so I can work in civil engineering because that's what I wanted to study because there are opportunities there, or hospitality management. But you can go to school all you want, but if you don't graduate, it means nothing. This is why a number of individuals got debt. And this is why some of the programs out there, like nursing, and this is another thing about change. And sometimes change brings out a lot of lies. When you hear a lot of the Democrats come out every day, it's always a lie. But see, when you have a lot of sheeple out here who listen to the lies, who are ultra sensitive, it's going to influence the way they vote. And this is why I'm glad the president has sent ICE to help the TSA workers, because now the public can have a different opinion of ICE. You had individuals on the View saying, well, they recovered just 5% of the criminals. Well, where did they get that number from? You just had in New York, or was in Chicago, it was an 18-year-old woman who was deleted execution style in Chicago by a Venezuelan. Oh, that's not reported in the news. But I asked these women who were deleted by these illegals, were the feminists. This is why I hold no candle to the feminists, because they're also for illegals. They're not for all women. They're for the women that believe in their train of thought. That's what you need to understand when you're dealing with change. You have individuals that really don't want to make any changes. They get stuck in their ways. This is why when it comes to dating, a number of individuals my age want younger women, because the older women are stuck in their ways. They resist change. Bottom line is, in order to make your life better and to grow, you're going to have to make changes, whether you like it or not. And this is why America, particularly when it comes to politics, most people still don't know about politics. They only got into politics because Trump was president. Before Trump became president, didn't see this many people who were involved in politics at all. Because I got on YouTube when Trump was running. Okay, I've been on YouTube now for 10 years. Trump was running for president when I got on YouTube back in 2016. And there have been individuals out there. Let me give a few shout outs. Shout out to Mr. O, Machismo TV. Shout out to Salty Balls. And also shout out to my brother Guy King and my brother Matt Cole. And of course, shout out to Mr. O with info. Check out Machismo TV. They put it down. Yeah, they're on a little late, but they put it down. Again, it's Machismo TV. And I first found out about Machismo TV from Bernard Riley, who's not on YouTube anymore because he got a job. And that's another thing. Everybody who's on YouTube is not going to make the money like that. So how do you adapt? Some people don't want to adapt. Well, I don't ask for cash apps. But one thing that I've adapted to is better backgrounds, like you see. You have to be authentic. But a lot of people in this country, I'm just going to say it like this, they're fake. They don't want the change. They want to be comfortable. Change is hard. Yes, it is. Change becomes easier when it's gradual. But still, you have to understand the change. And when you're resistant to it, it's going to give you a lot of problems. Like individuals, okay, they really don't know what's going on with this Iranian war. They don't know what's going on. Even the media doesn't know what's going on. You might have some correspondents reporting, but they don't know what's going on. They don't have secret security clearances. They're not part of the CIA or the FBI. They don't really know what President Trump's agenda is. They don't even know who he's talking to. And see, that's what the media does. The media wants you to think the way they do. So the media, what it's going to do is report to you. Now, I believe in the freedom of speech, but now I'm hoping that the SAVE Act passes, and I'm hoping that the Supreme Court comes down and says no mail-in ballots. To me, this has got to be a change. And see, the Democrats don't want those changes. No, they want the conservatives to make changes by believing their thoughts, and their thoughts aren't traditional families, men leading the household. No, they want the conservatives, or they want the traditionalists to think like they, but yet they don't want to change their mindset when it comes to voting. They want the mail-in votes, the mail-in ballots. Well, to me, if you're getting mail-in ballots and it's after midnight and you're still counting ballots, no, to me, here's what you need to do. And it needs to pass. If you have early voting, there's no need for mail-in ballots. To me, if you can't get out there and vote, I mean, even elderly, they can even set up a polling place where some of the elderly are. They can do it. When I lived in Slaterton, Pennsylvania, they did just that. We had two places that we could go and vote. The elderly had a place, and we had a place. But again, when you have a public that, okay, they want change, they want change. I shouldn't say they don't want change. They want a little change. Because full-blown change, number of individuals couldn't happen. Change in some things should be gradual, change in others should not be. Change is always good. But when you have individuals out here who, in my humble opinion, lack knowledge about things, common sense, I mean, voting, mail-in ballots, that was the stupidest thing. Now, I understood why they had mail-in ballots because of COVID. I understood that. But see, mail-in ballots went too far. And I understand why Trump is dealing with, why the president is dealing with these dictators. In fact, these dictators, a number of their cronies are coming over here causing problems. Which you wouldn't know when you hear CNN and MS Now. The bottom line in this country is individuals need to wake up. Change is pain sometimes. Like if in a relationship, 30 something years, that person passes or leaves. You have to make a change in your life, and it's hard, it's uncomfortable. I know going to work for some people is uncomfortable. I know high gas prices. It's uncomfortable. But you should learn something from it by, okay, if you don't want to really pay the high gas prices, because what's going to happen when fuel is high, not just high for automobiles, it's also high for airfare. So here's what you need to do: make shorter trips. That's what you do. And see, when energy is reduced, everything else is reduced. But see, the problem with America is we've been depending on foreign oil for a long time. Bottom line is this: complacency is what's really doing a lot of Americans in. America's still a great country, but you have a number of individuals who are still lying, cheating. And it's really not about racism, although it still does exist. It's about classism. And in this country, you do have to know how to survive. This is why you have the red pill out there. I urge a number of guys to stay on the red pill. Don't allow yourself to get shamed. Don't go out on dates if it's not cost effective for you. Don't even worry about the sex. Don't worry about that. You know, you have some women, I am the table. No, you're not the table. Because if that's all you can offer as a guy, sex, then you're nothing but a situationship. You're nothing but a human toilet after I break down and put the jizz right inside you. That's all you are. It's harsh what I just said, but it's true. And in order to get back a decent country, a number of people have to change. Change is for the culture. Now, I'm not saying go all the way back to where we were in the 1950s, but it's funny how the feminists want. See, the feminists tell you they don't want the 1950s because they don't want the patriarchy. But yet they still believe that men should be traditional by buying them drinks and buying them dinner. So you have to be careful. But it's one thing too in America, there's a lot of double talking. This is why a number of individuals are fake. Shout out to Ringo. He said that too. A number of people are fake, even your family members. They're fake. They act as if they got something when they really don't have anything. And materials don't mean anything. You can't take them with you. Bottom line is this: if you don't understand the change, I mean, I look at technology. You get a computer, Windows 11, it's good today, but in another 6 months, new technology comes out. So you have some things that are moving at a speed of light, and you have some things that are moving at a snail's pace. But either way, you have to adapt to the change. Most changes. Now, if there are changes like men playing in women's sports, no, you don't need to change that. That's a problem. I'm talking about reasonable change, not the left accepting that same sex, yeah, they can be families, but they're trying to tell you that same sex relationships are the same as hetero. They might have the same, they might have the same interests, but you can't reproduce with same sex. You can't. In fact, I did a video on this about 8 years ago. When it comes to the same sex, It's kind of funny. They have the tendency to act like a hetero couple. Well, one is the feminine one and one is the masculine one. I don't see that. I see that. And the way you understand change and the way you understand how the world works here in America is this. Number one, you have to understand that there are a lot of lies, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of assumption and delusion. That equals lead, which equals childish behavior. You have a number of individuals who haven't grown up because they're living a lie. They're living in a fantasy land. And that's what the left wants you to live in. They want you to live in a fantasy land to where everything is good. You could look like a bowling ball and be beautiful, but they don't tell you how that can have an effect on your heart. See, that's the lies that they're telling you. Always telling you something to make you feel good, but in the end, it's not good. They're always telling you that you don't need to you don't need to do well in school. Like the individual in Baltimore who had a 0.13 grade point average. Remember that? That's what a number of individuals want to do. They want to keep you poor and they want to keep you stupid and they want to keep you sensitive. And the reason why they want to do that is because when you don't have the knowledge that they have, then you're no threat to them. And if you're going to live in a country like America, people who are coming over here, they got to learn how to assimilate, not bring their culture here in this country and try to run this country as if it were the country they just came from. Because I couldn't go to their countries with an American flag and run it love American style there. And you have to understand too, black people, you're no longer the voting bloc. It's the migrants who are the voting bloc. And if you vote along with them, you're going to be asked out. The bottom line, I'm just going to say this to America, you better accept change. And sometimes the change doesn't always go forward either. Sometimes you need it to go backward because the pendulum has swung too far to the left and screwed everything up in this country. Time for the pendulum to go back. Time for some structure. Because what the Democrats really want, they want anarchy. See, they call the other side fascists when they're the real fascists. Because anything you say to them, they're going to call you names. They're going to shut you down. They're going to shame you. That's what they do because they don't have anything. And it's gotten down into women. It's gotten down into social media. Have a lot of influencing people out there. And when you bow down to the influencing people, and you should know who is talking. This is why I don't interact with certain people. I listen to more of the black political commentators like Barry Cunningham and ABL, Will Johnson, BCP. I do like accountable commentary. Shout out to him, Brother Guy King. But the bottom line is, you want to keep learning. And when I mean learning, you can take what you learn in school or what you learn in the streets and apply it to your life. Bottom line, change happens every day. That's the truth. Now, it may have sound like it may have seemed like I was contradictory. And in a way, I was a little contradictory because I said Americans don't like change. They like change in what they want. What they want is they don't want to feel the pain. They still want to be comfortable, but change at the same time. That's how Americans think. Like a feminist. She wants to be modern, but have traditional values at the same time. Those are mutually inexclusive. They don't work. And that's what America does. America double speaks. A lot of people, they don't know what they want. One thing I will tell you, when it comes to change, particularly what this president is doing, they don't like it because he's doing what he says he's going to do, even if you don't agree with him. He's trying to make changes. But you got a lot of dummies in there who don't see it. Why? Because they've been under a rock, living these bullshit lives for quite a long time, and they're comfortable with it. In the meantime, you have to understand that change takes place every day, whether it's at a snail's pace or whether it's at lightning speed. And in the end, change is good going forward, change is good going backwards. Because the society should be structured and stable. And that is the truth from the 411 Talk Zone radio show. And speaking of that, that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you are looking for some STEM content, check out my second channel, the QCIS channel. I'm doing nutrition. Got another one coming up for you on Saturday. So be there, be square. And that is nutrition on the QCIS channel, because on that channel, I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, here's where you can find me. You can find me right here on the 411 Talk Zone radio show on YouTube. I'm on X, formerly Twitter, on True Social, I'm on Rumble. For the QCIS channel, right here on YouTube, I'm on X, formerly Twitter, and I'm also on LinkedIn. And shout out to Dr. Steve Turley, and shout out to Professor Nez. Go to their channels. They have good content as well. Some of the best political analysts out here, because they actually get information that I can't even get. This is another thing about change. Change the way you think. You want to understand what's going on as well. And sometimes, instead of being jealous of that person, learn from that person. But if you have knowledge, and if you have an idea what's going on, it might not be as great as the person next to you. I'm going to say this: you can always learn again from that person next to you. But as long as you have some knowledge and you're taking your life in the proper direction, even though you're learning from that person to build upon your life, is what you need to always do in the current predicament that you're in. Always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, just change it. And once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Song Radio Show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.